Okay, yeah, put this on.
No, thank you.
Thanks. We could have some Bibles though, under Revised Standard.
You wanna wear it? You wanna wear it, you have to put it on, otherwise you break down. It's not, the power's on, but it's not turning. You have to turn it out, yeah.
Thank you.
Assuming you need one. No.
Is Joan here?
She didn't come to an application. Oh, thank you. Shall I try that?
Turn it on, go ahead and turn it on now.
We're testing. See, I'm always afraid to do this because it goes whoosh, you know. Yeah, like that. Okay. Uh-oh, sorry. I think I left my. Mm. Did I leave my glasses in here? No.
Yeah.
I was looking at Nyquist and all.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We were in there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, that's not about
I did,
see a bakery.
yeah.
I mean, they were kind of, this one gal came in and she got
Yeah.
2 sacks of bread. Just on.
Really?
But each 12 was round and it was about like that. Just stuck in one bucket.
My mom liked that braised kind of stuff. I never, I like the sweet stuff. You know?
Okay.
What bakery was that?
Elvira's over on Independence Avenue. After they brought in that Mexican bread,
Okay, here we
you
go.
know, for our guests.
All right.
We got curious about Mexican bread, and so we went looking for it. So, pretty good stuff.
Very curious.
I must not have tasted it. But I do like Mexican food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was probably about, it's probably about that time of day.
Uh-huh.
Probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Mhm.
I was in there. There's people standing in line waiting to pay, and people
Yeah.
eating. It was pretty full.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's a lot of tables in there that's covered.
yeah, there are. Yeah.
Hey, Eleanor, Royals won the first game.
I know. I know. That's 3 in a row. They won the series. And
I'll take point design.
a sweep would be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more night, don't they?
Yeah, about to start. I'll keep you posted. Oh, no, excuse me.
First things first.
Yeah, yes, right.
Everybody go to the silence.
Yes, we'll just close our eyes.
Channel it.
Okay, I get a little buzz and then you'll know that it's. Okay. Is the gang all here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Brett. Yeah, okay.
He was here.
Who's talking to them?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brent is here. Brent is here.
Yes, he is. Well,
Apparently John isn't,
What?
I guess not.
with cheese, so I'm gonna sit here where I can hear.
Okay. Okay.
You brought your Bible?
Mm-hmm.
You brought your Bible? Then I'll use this one. Cool.
Oh, yeah, I was looking for my glasses. So now the gang is all here. Yeah. Okay.
But the dumb thing is so big and heavy.
So good evening and welcome to our 6th class on the teachings of Jesus. And as we begin this time together, I invite you to close your eyes for a moment. Become still and acknowledge the source that is within. The one source, the one substance that provides for our every need. Anything we could ever need, desire, or require is already prepared for us at the source, at the center of our being. And for a moment in the silence, let us acknowledge that source. Acknowledge that the I of us is the source in the silence. One power, one presence, one life, one mind, and we are one with that one. And as we now begin to return our attention to this time and this place, we bring forth our sense of wholeness. And we give thanks that we can return to this place of wholeness at any time. And now, as we more fully return our attention to this time and this place, we give thanks. We give thanks for an awareness of that truth, that anything we could ever need or desire is already prepared for us. And we give thanks to the one who showed us the way, our master teacher, our way shower, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay. So, I want to give everyone a chance to ask questions before we go on and talk about more signs. And you do know that John did not call these signs miracles, because a miracle, everything was a miracle. Life, birth, everything that happened was a miracle. You know, growth is a miracle. But a sign is something, a phenomenon that differentiates a holy man. And these 7 signs are signs that Jesus was indeed the Messiah. And so as we progress through these signs, we see different dimensions of the Christ called into practice, and they get more difficult. You know, it requires more of that presence. But before we go on to more signs, let's start with the basic one. And the basic one, the wedding at Cana, is really the foundation for the whole thing. Okay, so are you all understanding the importance of the wedding at Cana? There are a few things I want to say about it that I may not have emphasized before, and that places are important, numbers are important, okay? The names of characters and the names of location. And this sign takes place in Cana. Who knows what Cana means? You probably do, right? No? Okay. What?
Reeds.
Reeds. Okay. And reeds, like place of reeds. And it refers to the point where power is expressed. Right here, it's the larynx. You know, it vibrates like a reed. Okay. All right. So it's not the source of power, it's where the power is expressed. And speaking the word, which is a term we use in unity, does not necessarily mean speaking, or it doesn't have to be aloud, but it's an awareness of the truth that has just been experienced. Okay. Okay. It was the 3rd day of a wedding. 3rd day, that is mind, idea, expression. Okay, this is where the power comes forth on the 3rd day of the wedding. What was it that turned Jesus from being also invited, that is a passive presence, into an active one? What was the event that was the catalyst for the transformation? Oh, well, that was the situation. Yes, okay. So Mary became aware that the wine was running out. And it was the woman's job, the women sitting in the circle, to alert the men when the wine was running out. But for us, we become aware when we're losing energy. All right? Are you aware of losing energy, of losing, around about 4 in the afternoon or whenever your particular time is, that you feel a loss of energy? Okay, and so she turns to Jesus, but Jesus says, it's not my time. And so what does she do?
She tells that
Servant.
Yeah,
to go.
okay. Yeah, she tells the servants, do what he tells you.
She does sort of just take over even when he says he isn't going to do it.
She takes over, but she surrenders, okay? Because the Christ has to be in a place of authority in your consciousness before it is its time, okay?
But
You can't tell God when to do things, okay? You have to give up your control in order for it to come through you, Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, it just seems sort of yes and sort of, because he says, it isn't my time, and she just trades on and says, do what he tells you to do anyway. You know, she doesn't
Right.
stop when he says, it's not my time, you know.
She doesn't
Which is-
stop,
Which
but
I think is somewhere in there is some interesting tidbit of a lesson. I don't know what it is, though.
Yeah.
I haven't figured it out.
okay.
I think I'm
Have
seeing
you
the
ever,
difference, though.
excuse me?
I think I'm seeing the difference though now, because I used to think that way too. Because I used to think, well, she was taking charge and she was telling, you know, telling Jesus kind of what to do. But when she says, maybe it's when she says, do whatever he says, that she just surrenders the control. And he could have said anything. It happens that he said, fill the wine jars with water, and then he poured it out and came wine, but he didn't have to, right?
Is that she trusted that he would know when it was time to act. Now, Jesus had not brought wine, all right? Holy men were excluded from bringing wine to the wedding. The women did not drink. And so she wasn't sure how Jesus fit in with this line of men who were supposed to bring forth wine. And so she decided that she was just going to trust that it wasn't his time, and so she turned it over. That's the interpretation that I get, that when we give the Christ the authority, we don't say, okay, God, I want this to happen right now, and under these conditions. Sometimes we like to do that. Yeah, okay. And so immediately as she turns it over, and who are these servants? Who are these servants within you? Do you have servants within you?
Well, if she's commanding him, I would think they would be the thoughts.
So she's commanding all the forces there. All the forces, not only all the thoughts, but all the feelings, all the faculties, saying, okay, we're giving him total charge. We're putting God in charge here, and I'm getting out of the way. Yeah. Okay, and so then fill the jars with water. Okay, fill the jars with water. Water, you have to be aware of potential before you can manifest the actual, right? So water's, you know, plain, tasteless, invisible, but we think that you have to go through a process to get wine. We think you have to have some grapes, and then you have to soak the grapes in water, and then you have to ferment it. Jesus says, no. It has infinite potential. You can form and shape it any way you want. And so he says, fill the jars with water, okay? Those jars. Think of the jars as cells in your body which need water, right? Don't we have to drink 8 glasses of water a day, or so it goes? Yeah? Okay. And then pour it out, okay? Energize and then express. And he took it to the steward. He said, oh, this is good. All right, the steward. The guy who organized the feast, the intellect makes that judgment. The intellect is very discriminating. He says, this is good. You saved the best for the last. And the groom agrees. Okay, now where's the bride? Who knows who the bride is? Where's the bride?
Well, the male always represents, oh, there you go.
Okay, all right. Here is where the marriage is taking place. Thinking and feeling, okay? Intellect and intuition. Conscious and subconscious. Do you think that maybe it's the conscious and the subconscious that are becoming one here? So you're not going to see the bride. right? If it's subconscious. Feeling, Mary represents the soul. She represents intuition. She represents our love nature. She represents that intuitive knowing. And she represents the soul. And so the soul is in the subconscious, feeling nature, okay? That's where the marriage takes place. Now, if you have this other diagram, because we're going to need these diagrams, I decided not to bring the board because we end up just using these diagrams anyway. But the one where you see, do you have it? Anybody have it handy?
I forgot to bring my folder.
Talking about this?
Yes, yeah. And that's what I'll borrow it for a minute. But if you have it with you, take it out. And remember, here's what we're doing. Okay. The marriage, here's where the marriage is taking place. These two aspects of the soul. And when they are joined, then we become aware of the superconscious, which is the way into the Christ, right? So here, the Christ energy comes in here through the superconscious, that is, if the door is closed to the outside world, comes in here, goes down to the subconscious. And if there is something that needs to be purified, that takes place here. That's where chemicalization takes place. You all know what that is, right? And then
I don't know what chemical is.
it's release, it's purification. And it's like, it's called chemicalization because there's actually a chemical reaction when pure energy hits an impure substance, okay? And so it's like, you know how soda and vinegar goes poof? So it's like that. It's a chemical, and you feel it, sometimes intensely, other times not so intensely. But the purification takes place, and then that divine idea of whatever, wholeness, health, healing, life, it comes up here and it becomes conscious. And that's where you say, oh, it's good. I am healed. I am whole. Okay, makes sense? And then you express it. Okay? All right. So you keep this out in front of you. Yeah.
So is chemicalization a transformation?
It is the purification that the transformation takes place when Mary surrenders to the Christ. It's like Myrtle Fillmore. The transformation took place when she was open to receiving that affirmation, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit sickness. The transformation took place in consciousness. Okay. It's not a transformation if she had just been healed, if she healed herself of tuberculosis. That is not a transformation. The transformation takes place when we build a consciousness of wholeness, health, life.
So it's transformation, then purification.
It's when the divine idea hits an impure nervous system, all the error thoughts and negative feelings or anything that is in the subconscious, when the divine idea, there's a collision.
I was just trying to get a sequence in my mind. Is that the correct way to think about it or not?
Going to the source is first. You go to the source. That's what infuses the divine energy. Then the purification takes place because we're already whole. We're already, okay. But this union has to take place so that the wholeness, the divine ideas can be expressed.
So when Myrtle went to that lecture,
Yeah.
right, she became aware. All of a sudden her eyes are opened up. That was the transformation, right? Her consciousness
Yes,
became
but
aware.
she says in her booklet, I was ripe soil for that new thought. In other words, there was a lot of preparation that went on
But
ahead
then you
of
still
time.
have to have the event of the thing actually happening,
Yes,
right?
yes, but it wasn't the affirmation that made the transformation. Charles heard the same affirmation. He thought, how crazy is that? All right? So there has to be that receptivity, okay?
And then it has to be actually received, right?
It has to be received.
And that's the,
It's not,
that's the transformation, receiving it openly, letting it in.
it's,
Trying to just get a handle on it now.
Okay.
I'm thinking,
fill the jars with water and pour it out. That's the transformation of the potential into the actual. Okay? Makes sense?
I think chemicalization, as I think about it, and I don't know how much I've read about it or haven't read it, so I don't know where this idea comes from. But that's sort of when it can get pretty tough. That's the desert area. That's the
Yeah.
proverbial when shit hits the fan. When you're moving really forward
Ex-
and you're making progress and you think everything should be light and airy and lovely, and all of a sudden
You're quite
stuff-
right. You're
stuff
quite
comes
right.
at you.
And the,
And so I
yes.
think,
Yeah, and the transformation cannot take place until that happens. Yeah, he's right. That this journey is not like a day at the beach. You know, it's not a picnic.
And I think what's important about knowing that is it's so easy when chemicalization comes to quit. Instead of understanding it's part of the process
Yes.
to get to the transformation.
Yes. Okay. So we prepare, and the way we prepare is by going into the silence, and it may not happen in 1, 2, or 3 meditations. It happens just as Myrtle was devoted to Jesus all her life. You know, she was absolutely, dear Jesus, she'd write letters to God. She was very devout. And so when a crisis came, she was very open to anything, right? And she was open to that new thought, which absolutely penetrated into the depths of her soul, and she never looked back. It's about a consciousness of healing as opposed to a cure for a disease.
And in the context of her having this relationship with the divine, couldn't you almost say that tuberculosis itself was chemicalization?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
tuberculosis, you mean backward chemicalization?
No, chemicalization.
No.
She's
Symptoms, yeah.
She's been moving all along with the spiritual course.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden along comes
Ex-
chemicalization.
And that's,
Kind of
you
tuberculosis.
have captured it, because we interpret symptoms to be bad, and we try to stop them with all kinds of things. Whereas the holistic healing, these oils that I give you every week as a bribe, no. These oils don't cure things. They lift your frequency so that whatever is there that isn't in that frequency can be released. Okay? Yeah. That's an important point, because anytime we have a challenge, be it in, we experience a lot of intense release, we think, oh, that doesn't feel good, so I think I better take an aspirin, or whatever it is. We like to shut down the release process, and what that does is it puts more barriers between us and the Christ. Okay. Yeah, we do. We forget our center when it can be intense sometimes. But Myrtle was persistent. She worked with the affirmation. She worked with the I am statements until she was ready to express it. And it was a consciousness that never went back. No more sickness, no more. Do you see the difference between a cure for a disease and a consciousness of wholeness? Health is not an absence of sickness. Health is that fullness of infinite potential within us that we are here to express. Okay. And of course, nobody wants sickness. That is true. And we'll have, in the Pool of Bethesda, we'll see the human way versus a spiritual way. Okay?
I'm sorry, but I gotta get this thought right. So the tuberculosis was chemicalization without anything else? So if I got a disease, then I'm experiencing chemicalization.
Well, okay.
But not until, but I thought chemical, I mean, I can see it as a first stage. Here you have the challenge, which is the impure thought, and then you have the consciousness awareness that comes, and that's the pure thought, and then you have chemicalization, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, you have a disease, all right, or something happens to you. You have an injury. You have the flu, you know, anything you have. And our first thought is to make it go away. And sometimes it's necessary to kind of get into a place where it can more easily be released. Okay, this is not an intellectual process. Don't make it that, okay? It is a process that we have backwards. Charles Fillmore says we've got it backwards, that we take challenges as bad. We take symptoms of anything as being the result of something bad. What if it's about opening up channels for healing and wholeness to come through? It's an inside-out job. Is that better? Do you understand that?
But it's still only the opportunity. It's not. It hasn't accomplished anything yet.
It's already accomplished. The fulfillment is inside. We have to release the blocks.
But until you release the block, it's not chemicalization yet, right?
Can I say something else?
Yeah.
I think part of the thing is, with
Yeah.
chemicalization, say you're on the spiritual path, as Myrtle Fillmore, as is taught to have been, and she gets tuberculosis. The reason I would call it chemicalization is not because she had a disease, but because shit hit the fan and how she used the disease. She used it as part of the process to go deeper and find the wholeness inside of it.
But the
So
chemicalization doesn't come until she finds the wholeness. It's not complete until she finds the wholeness, right?
Think chemicalization
We'll
is part
get
of the
this
process.
better in the Pool of Bethesda, okay?
I mean, how can you have chemicalization without the
It's
change
all,
result?
it's all one process. If health consists, if you're already whole, if you're already filled with life, then there is nothing you need. You just need to release, okay? You need to release.
But without
That's
the
all.
release, it's not
From
chemicalization,
the
right?
inside,
I mean, something has to happen besides the challenge.
the challenge is a catalyst, you see?
Right. But a catalyst is just a beginning. It's not an end.
Okay. All right. It'll be easier to understand in just a bit. Okay. Now we had those two discourses, and we had Nicodemus, which told us how it is that we can lift our thinking. Remember, he came to Jesus by night, and Jesus, he was thinking literally like a human being thinks. Born again? Do I have to go back into my mother's womb and do this again? And Jesus said, you're a teacher of the law, and you do not understand about being born spiritually? Okay. Diagram. I just spilled water on it. Chemicalization is taking place. It's dissolving here. they're functioning from the conscious level. You know, it doesn't make sense to them. They represent, the Pharisees represent the letter of the law. You can't understand the absolute truth through your intellect. Truth comes from inside to out. That's why when you learn a technique of meditation, you have the experience first, and then all the rest of it is release until that wholeness has a clear path to come forth. Okay, so that's how we do. We go into the depth of the soul, the center of our being, and that's how we raise our thinking. Be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. Okay? If any of it doesn't make sense, do please speak up. I won't bite you. Okay. All right, and then in the woman at the well, we learn what has to happen to the feeling nature. Feeling nature is more powerful. And what we find is that the feeling nature, there's a kind of a mixed bag going on here, because here she is at the well of Jacob, which is her connection to the source of life. But she lives in Samaria, and so she has a mixed consciousness, and she has these notions that came with the Assyrian invasion. Okay? So, you know, she's confused, in other words, you know, and she doesn't know who Jesus is. All she notices is it's socially inappropriate for Jesus to be talking to her. But he asks her for water. Please give the Christ life, all right? Give that Christ life within you. And she says, and then he says, I'll give you living water, okay? Living water. And she says, well, how can you do that? You don't have any instruments here. You don't have anything to draw the water with. And you know, are you better than our father Jacob? So she doesn't get it. But when Jesus tells her that if she has some living water, she'll never thirst again, that speaks to her. And what draws her in is when he tells her about her life. Because the Assyrians believed in psychics. You know? Oh, I see you are a prophet, she says. Okay, she's been identifying with her sensory impressions. And she's not married to her intuition either. And so once she has some living water, I mean, she goes from being an outcast to being the first one to whom Jesus revealed that he was the Messiah. That's a transformation, wouldn't you say? But those feelings of doubt and inferiority, they had to be brought out into the light. She was at the well in the middle of the day, high noon. So feelings have to be brought to light, and thinking has to go deep to be renewed. So we have dark and light, right? So that's a summary. And if you have questions about either Nicodemus or the woman at the well, we're going to leave that wedding of Cana. There are 7 steps, if you wish, to the woman at the well, and the steps, and you can see if you can find those 7 steps. And I would like to move on to John chapter 4. Okay, pay attention to the numbers. This is 4. Foundation here. We have foundation. Foundation has now been established. Okay? Thinking nature, feeling nature, happily married have provided a foundation for the Christ to come through. And this is the second sign. that once that has happened, then healing can take place, all right? Healing is the first, it is the easiest thing to have happen because we are already whole. We are programmed, we are wired for healing. We have an absolutely perfect healing system, but it's not working because of the mixture in here. This is why we can't heal and why we look outward, because we have not done enough work in here to do that. Okay. All right, so let's read. This is the official's son. Anyone want to read? It starts at verse 46.
So he came again. Is everybody ready? So he came again to Cana in Galilee, where he had made the water wine. And at Capernaum there was an official whose son was ill. When he heard that Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, he went and begged him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Jesus therefore said to him, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you will not believe." Mm-hmm. The official said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." Mm-hmm. The man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and went his way. As he was going down, his servants met him and told him that his son was living. So he asked them the hour when he began to mend, and they said to him, "Yesterday at the 7th hour the fever left him." The father knew that was the hour when Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." And he himself believed, and all his household. This was now the second sign that Jesus did when he had come from Judea to Galilee.
Mm-hmm. And why would you say it's the second sign?
It's after the miracle or sign of Eleanor.
Oh, that's one reason. But it's second because when you are ill, at the point of dying, you are in a state of duality, and the healing is a point of unity. Okay? So this is what some call absent healing. It's not a term that I like. Distant healing. You know, if you call silent unity and ask them to pray with you, sometimes, well, and over the years, many people have experienced healing as a result. But why does he ask this man if he believes? Does he need to see signs and wonders? Why would he ask him that? Here's a request for healing of his son, and Jesus is saying, you know, do you have to see signs and wonders?
Because he said, "Come down." Because he's thinking that Jesus has to be there for his son to be healed.
Well, Jesus started to go down, but when the man said, okay, Jesus started to go down. But the reason Jesus always tests before the healing takes place. Jesus doesn't just go around healing everybody who comes and asks him. He tests the man because there were many of these miracle workers around, and a sign, you know, people want results without doing the inner work. And he wasn't sure if the man needed to see an outer phenomenon in order for him to believe. So he says, do you need to see signs and wonders? A wonder is the synchronicity when something in nature happens synchronistically that, you know, results in some kind of transformation. Like, and some would say the Red Sea parting, okay, in a timely way. And so the man, he's asking the man, do you have to see something before you will believe it? Do we ever need to see something in order to believe it? So Jesus is testing him, and he simply repeats his request. And then Jesus, at least in my Bible, Jesus starts to go and he says, oh, you don't need to. You don't need to. You just speak the word. And that will take care of the situation.
Just so I see where the difference is in our translations, where do you see it in your Bible where Jesus is starting to go down? Because I don't get that at all. I can't find it.
Okay, just a minute.
Has to be somewhere between 48 and 49 or somewhere. 47, 48, 49. I don't see it.
He said, Peter, Jesus said to him,
Where are you, excuse me?
verse 40. 40, okay? That's all it took. 40. Jesus said to him, go, your son will live. Okay? He doesn't need to go down.
I understand that, but where you said he started to go down?
Well, that's what the man was asking. Okay? He was saying, come down. And Jesus says, go. Because he had made contact with the faith. Okay?
Yeah.
Made contact. That's what faith is.
Come down before my child dies. And then
Yeah, that's the official. But I thought you were saying Jesus started to go down.
Okay. Go, your son will live. And he, as he was going down, his servants met him and told him that his son was living. Okay. Perhaps it's more obvious in another version where the man is a centurion. This man is a Roman. And in the story about the centurion, he is a military man. And he says, when I give orders, all these men obey me. And you're like that spiritually. So
Yeah.
all you have to do is say the word,
Right.
and he will live. And so the man believed him. And what's the significance of the 6th hour here?
$7?
No, 6th hour. 7th hour, yeah, excuse me. What time of the day is that?
Hottest hour?
Oh, it's pretty hot, but you see, their day started at 6 in the morning. So 6 in the morning would be our number 1, right? And then 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you get to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that is the 7th hour. 1, okay? 1. So he had been 20 miles away. This patient was 20 miles away. All right, 22, consciousness of God and something else, healing and health and sickness. All right, do you believe in health and sickness, or do you believe only in health? Okay, and so he saw that this man, without seeing any results, without any outward evidence of anything taking place, that it was going to happen. And so he validated it when he said, what time? And it happened at 1 o'clock. So that's when the son became whole. Okay? So who healed the son? The faith of the father of the boy. All right?
And what does the sun represent in the story? Yeah.
The son.
Christ within you.
The son is always the offspring of the father. And because he's a son, that means thinking nature. All right? So the father's thinking nature changed. He thought he had to go down to actually touch him or be with him in order to be healed. And he says, no. No, just speak the word.
Heal my thinking nature.
What?
I said, heal my thinking nature.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we all could use that. Okay, so All right.
No,
So,
it's not.
so we call it distant healing because he was 20 miles away from the patient that needed the healing. So if there's something wrong with the son, it's the father's
Thinking.
thinking. If there's something wrong with the daughter, it's the mother's feeling. Okay.
Father's feeling, Sharon, right?
Now, Jesus did not teach us how to heal. He taught us how to access and build a consciousness of wholeness, health, life. There's a difference there. Jesus said, now, here are the steps. Number 1, 2, 3. Here are the steps, and the first step is you have to believe first in the divine idea of health. In the divine idea, you have to believe in the possibility of healing. That's step number 1. But step 2, this might be harder, you have to be willing to accept that it can happen, and in fact has to happen in and through you. Willingness.
That's so hard.
Yeah. And it can, provided you have done the preparation, right? Okay. Willingness. Third step, once you have made contact with the source, that's when you say, I am whole, well, and complete. That's your experience. That's not some abstraction, some abstract affirmation. That is a truth that you have made real inside of you. Okay? All right. So it has nothing to do with the merit of the person who is in need of healing, and it has nothing to do with how skilled, if you will, or how eloquently the words are spoken. It has to do with frequency, right? It has to do with consciousness, right? Make sense? Okay. This is the first thing. In Silent Unity, we have more requests for healing than anything else. And when I was there, there was still at least a little token of having the person be still and centered before saying anything at all. And give the person a chance to go within and become quiet and experience that place within themselves where the healing can take place. And then you use the affirmations, but they can be silent. It's simply a recognition. Oh, I am whole, I am health, I am life, I am whatever it is.
Can I divert the question for 2 minutes? If you can give a short answer.
Uh-huh.
What do you, in this context, what do you think it was people experienced with Myrtle Fillmore when they came upstairs, when they were standing in line for healing work?
A short answer?
Is there a short answer? Or is that for another time?
No, it's not. I mean, I think it will become clear to you if you read the healing letters. And she tests people just like Jesus did. And she lets people know that no, it wasn't at all, oh, I am a healer and therefore let me, you know. No, because to heal, you have to determine the readiness of a person to open to it. And, you know, there's a rich man who comes to Jesus and says, what do I need to do to enter the kingdom? And Jesus says, well, what do the commandments say? You know, and the man recites these commandments, and Jesus says, you are right. And he says, well, I've done all those. It's like, well, I come to church every Sunday and I meditate every day. Oh, well, sell all your belongings and give the money to the poor. Oh, is that what I have to do? If you have made money more important in your life than God, then you have to do that.
Oh, he was still full of himself.
Well, yeah, he
And
was.
he was giving it away to get rid of and empty himself.
We make many things in different moments more important than God. Do we not? Am I right? Yeah. Okay. So that particular man, now Jesus doesn't say that to everyone. Okay. In Nazareth, he did not do great work because the people had no faith. It was like, who are you? You're just Joseph the carpenter's son, and you know, nothing good ever comes out of Nazareth. You know, and it's like, that's an unwillingness to receive, and they try to kill him. They try to push him off a cliff. Okay. So, yeah, healing and curing, two very different things. So everybody understand the official son. This is, I think, an easy one to understand. The I am statement, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That's the I am statement that goes with that. And if you have a short answer, I will listen to what you think that says. And that's it's a very short answer. Yeah. The I of you is the source, is it not? The source of all good, source of health. The I of you is the way. Aren't we just talking about it, how it's the way here? All right. And the I of you is the life. So it's the source, the course, and the goal, all in one. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except by me, through me. Okay? Jesus, the Christ, that is, knew his oneness with God, the all in all. All right? No one comes to the Father. So when, when the disciples say, well, where are you going? And why do you have to go away? And why can't we come? It's like, how can you say that? Do you not know? Do you not know where I am going? I go to prepare a place for you. And where is that place? It's here, in the fourth dimension, in the spiritual realm. I go to prepare a place beyond all of your human thinking and error beliefs. So that way, you will always have access to the Christ of your own being. Okay. And that I am statement is found in, you can read it, it's kind of like a discourse. That's found in John 14:6. And this is where Jesus says the greater works, you know, and these things I do, you shall do, and even greater. Okay? So do you all believe that health is your birthright? Health is your birthright? Yes?
I gotta say no. That's one I really have trouble with.
Okay. Yeah. You do believe you're made in the image likeness of God? Yes? And that is wholeness. Okay? So what you're talking about is a process of healing. Okay? And in that sense, it has been perhaps a path of learning and growth for you. Yeah. I think it's one of the ways that people choose to come and get in touch with their wholeness is through health. Other people, it's relationships or money or, you know, various things we do have challenges with. And so, you know, and Myrtle says we were a sickly lot. they had had health challenges all her life for sure, and the kids were, but when transformation takes place, it's a shift in perception. It's a dramatic shift from seeing things whole to from seeing things fragmented to seeing things whole. Because in sickness, you see sickness and health. You believe in both sickness and health. Many people do. I don't recommend it, but health is a birthright, and it is eternally there. Whether you receive it or not, it's still there, wholeness. Okay? Whereas symptoms and illness, that's transient. It goes away. So it has no power because it's not eternal. It changes all the time. Okay. Are you happy with that one? We can go on to the Pool of Bethesda. Okay, which is John chapter 5. This is a good one, and now we are seeing a greater dimension of the Christ coming forth. This one is it is different. And so we talked some about the Pool of Bethesda. And what you have here is a portrait of human consciousness. Here's a pool, and there are these 5 porticos representing the 5 senses, and there you have lame, blind, and paralyzed. Okay, so what would lame represent in you? I mean, here's a lame man. What is lame? Because obviously we're not all lame, right? Physically. Anybody?
He's crippled by thoughts.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, lame, weak. You know, if you're lame, you can't walk very well, and you have difficulty moving forward. Yes?
If you're stuck in a place, or you just...
Uh-huh, yeah, okay. And there is, what did I say? Paralyzed. There's the paralyzed. What paralyzes you? Fear. Okay, all right. So fear. And blind? What's blind?
You can't see the light.
You can't see the light. You can't see the Christ that is there. And so here are all these people. They're invested in a cultural belief that they have to get into the water. And not only that, but you have to be the first one in the water. And then when that person gets in the water, then this angel comes down and stirs up the water, and that's the process that many people feel they have to go through in order to heal. Okay, and so here is a man who has been a lame man. He can't walk. He has a bed there. And what does Jesus say to him? He's been there for 38 years. And Jesus said, here's the key phrase, do you want to be healed?
In Aramaic, actually, it's are you willing?
Are you willing to be healed?
And I take that to mean, are you willing to be responsible for your life?
Exactly, yes. Are you willing to be healed? Yeah.
I
Yes.
think also some people enjoy being ill because they get attention.
That's true.
And it's, oh, woe is me, I can't do that because...
That's right. Yes. And so that's partly the reason why Jesus said that. Because many of these lame, these invalids, wanted to stay that way because they made a lucrative living from being beggars. Okay. And so he says, are you willing? Do you want to be? My translation says, do you want? But I agree with you. I've seen another one where
So it's parallel,
Says
7:17.
willing. Yeah.
I guess just because, well, want
Because you have to be
Notifies desire.
willing to,
rather than action.
yes, yes, exactly.
If you look at 7:17, it says, if any man is willing to do his will, he shall know the
Uh-huh.
teaching whether it is of God.
Okay.
So willingness.
Willingness is an important part of
or
it.
practice.
And Jackie's right, you know, sometimes people make something more important. I've had that experience, you know, with several people who had an agenda, you know, and they wanted, you know, some form of attention.
Right.
And one woman who completely reorganized her life in order to serve this child of hers who was losing her vision. And she got well. And I worked with her for a while. The parents brought her. She improved so much, she decided that she didn't want to have her sight restored. Can you imagine? Because if you had your mother's complete attention and she was staying home and doing everything for you, who would want to be healed? That's the situation here. And so here was Jesus' way of testing him. All right. And then he says, well, I've been here for 38 years and, you know, obviously I want to be healed. Well, and that's why Jesus said, so he simply repeats, well, and no one will put me in the water, and every time I try to step in the water, somebody gets in before me, and therefore I can't be healed.
And growing in self-pity.
Yes, and also just this false belief that all these conditions have to exist in order for him to be healed. And so Jesus says, well, pick up your bed. That is, you know, lift up that consciousness and walk, move forward. He's lame, so he can't walk, all right? Someone has to carry him down to the pool, right? Okay, pick up your bed and walk. Pallet, same thing. But why does this, do you think, why does this require a deeper dimension here than the official son, for example? What here is requiring more? Does this man have faith? No, he doesn't know who Jesus is. He does what Jesus tells him to do, right? He does. He follows the instruction. But why isn't that healing? Just to follow the instruction.
Doesn't change consciousness.
That's right. It doesn't change the consciousness. So he goes to the temple, and the Jews, and here this is referring to the intellectual, you know, the people in the temple who represent that intellect, that, and they say, excuse me, but you're violating the Sabbath by carrying your bed. And he said, oh, well, the man who healed me, he doesn't know, the man who healed me told me to. Do we ever blindly follow instructions that we don't understand? Oh, yeah.
If I was this guy, I would.
And the people in the temple say, well, who was this man who healed you? And it says that Jesus had disappeared because of the crowd. Now, when you have been healed, here's a great infusion of pure spiritual energy. Well, does that not stir up? Now he's beginning to doubt. Oh, but you're violating the Sabbath. Okay, here we have a conflict. and a crowd of thoughts. That is, and so he's confused. He doesn't know what happened to him. He thought he was walking, and now he's being questioned about this. When things calm down, then he became, again, Jesus shows up. Only in the quiet can we become aware of the Christ. It has to be quiet. And that's when he recognizes. So you have to recognize the source of healing, all right, in order for that to be a change of consciousness. If you think somebody else healed you, you aren't healed. Excuse me.
So what do you think the number 38 represents?
That's a good question. Because 38, first of all, 3 does not go into 38. You need a trinity. That's the creative process. You need to have mind, idea, expression. You need to have spirit, soul, body. There's no trinity possible here. Also, 38, now if it was 39, that would work. Also, if you add 8 and 3, that's 11. That's 1 short of 12. The thing is, you can have an experience, but if you don't have the understanding of where the healing came from. You see, he couldn't manifest on his own, but in 38 years, that's eternity. He'd be at that pool forever. Okay, you have to have the Trinity because you are spirit. You are spirit. You express in and through a soul which inhabits a body. And so all 3 have to be involved in this process of bringing forth. Now, many people today think of healing as purely a physical process. It isn't. It's purely a spiritual process that takes place instantly once the transformation in consciousness takes place. And we're maybe going in that direction. Okay. But this is a picture, this pool of Bethesda, it's a picture of allopathic medicine. That's what we do. We don't know what the cause is. We don't know what, we follow instructions, and it doesn't, and sometimes it does bring about a cure. But then how quickly the doubt comes back when it's questioned. Oh, well, you'll get that again. You know, if you have something and you say, I'm healed, and the doctor says, oh, don't, there's a 90% chance that this will reoccur. Doesn't that make you question in your own mind if it's lasting? That's what happened here. Okay, yeah.
Question. When he talks about the crowd, right? And then back here in 225, I didn't understand it until you said about the crowd, because Jesus was there at the Passover and people were believing and there was a bunch of people around, but Jesus wasn't entrusting himself to them because he knew what was in man. So is that us while we're in the process? We need to kind of separate ourselves from conflicting thoughts.
It's simply that once the mind starts getting active with worry and doubt, the Christ disappears. We've lost contact with it. It's not about a person, it's about what happens inside.
So we can lose the Christ just because there's other
Well,
thoughts?
you can lose awareness of it, yes. Have you ever just had a flood of thoughts? And in your meditation,
You just lose track of it.
you lose awareness of it. It's never gone.
Okay.
We're always one with it. And so Jesus disappears, and then when all the commotion settles down about somebody carrying his bed on the Sabbath, then Jesus reappears and says, don't do this again. You know, don't sin again, or something worse will befall you. What does that mean? What was his sin?
Losing faith.
Sort of ignorance, a sense of separation from that part of himself that heals.
Right.
That's the sin. Sense of separation from the source. So we're all sinners in that sense, right? Do we all lose sense of the source? And that's what happened here. He wasn't aware that it was a source, so Jesus needed to reappear and say, don't sin again. Don't lose that awareness of what within you is the healing power.
Don't pay attention to outside things.
Yes, exactly right.
The things that appear to be